Oh, very nice, Chris.
Mhm.
Are we going for the stout again this evening?
No, no, we don't have stout. We have. I'll show you in a second.
Oh,
Gotta pour it.
oh, does it have the little like sort of nitro? Is it a dark
No,
beer? That was my description of whatever that is called. Oh,
no, this
ooh,
is 18 watt from Single Cut.
very nice. 18 watt.
I don't know why it's called that, but it's
Huh.
where is this from? The Single Cut, and oh, it's somewhere else on here. I don't
That
know. It's
really is
New
that
York,
hop is so prominent on there.
Astoria.
Ooh,
Yeah,
very nice.
Queens, I guess.
Chris, you're gonna need to tell me how hoppy it is. Does it live up to the level of hoppiness you expect from the
Well,
hop with wings can design?
it's got
Yeah,
it's got winged hops on there.
winged. That's moment of truth.
Oh, that's good.
Ooh, very nice. How hoppy is it?
It makes me happy. So
Ah!
I think
Chris,
it would
that's
pass the
hilarious.
pretzel test. I could tell you that
What's that? Oh, it passes the pretzel test? That's
for
all it needs
sure.
to do, Chris. That's all
Mom
it
and
needs
Dad are
to
here.
Hey, hey, mom and dad. Hey, mom and dad. Fabulous. Very good. We have our viewers coming in Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We were just talking about how we can't, for whatever reason, we can't track the viewer count on Twitter. But every week we have quite a few viewers on Twitter. So once again, hello, Twitter people. We see you. We don't see you, but we see you later in the total viewer count,
You hear you. You
not live.
hear the tweeting that goes on.
We feel it. We hear that the tweets resonating in the universe. That would be cool. Telepathic tweeting. Uh,
I don't know if
since it's
that would be. I
you
don't know
know
if that would be cool at all. But it's.
you know, I soured on Twitter after we were really traumatized by one very prominent Twitter user for several years, and you know, it gave me such peace when he was banned from
Oh
Twitter.
yeah. Oh, that one.
It was too late. I mean, it was already too late, but it was satisfying. It was satisfying. Anyways, hey, Susan M. Davis in the house with the shorts on, taunting us. Taunting
Oh, damn
Chris.
you. We were
I
just talking
know.
about you, Susan M.
We were,
Davis. Your ears were probably burning.
yeah, Albuquerque. We were chatting about Albuquerque a bit. Yeah. Excited for your move. It's going to be great. But I was, you know, because I'm indoors, I'm dressed lightly, and because I needed my purple and my purple lights, you know, I had to. But it is quite cold here. And I had a beautiful brunch with one of our upcoming
Oh, yeah.
readers, who is also a return reader, Nicole Caruso Garcia, a fabulous poet and fellow Dr. Kim Bridgeford disciple. We had an incredible brunch, and afterwards we took a little walk around Norwalk, and the wind was just freezing our faces and our hair. I was
Ooh.
defrosting for a long time after that, but it was so sunny. We wanted to be outside, you know, like it's
Sure,
hard. Hard.
after a nice brunch, you had like some avocado toast or something like that, and you want to go outside.
Yeah. Well, you know, close to avocado toast, I had a veggie omelet, and Nicole had a very delicious massaged kale salad. It was really good. It was massaged, but she said it was really, really good, and but did have avocados on it. Did. It did.
Hey,
And if had avocado toast been an option, I might have gone for it, you know? Maybe it
it
was an option. I shouldn't say anything about the spread in Norwalk, you know?
was a deep tissue massage, or
You know, you need to massage kale though. It's tough. You don't want to eat I don't want to eat non-massaged kale. It needs to
but
kind of soften up,
what's
get a little
involved
fluffy, get
in
a little
this
dressing.
massaging?
What's that?
What's involved in this massaging? I don't understand. How is he massage kale?
Honestly, I saw a video about it once, and I was like, "That's how," and I completely forgot. I completely forgot.
Okay,
Somebody, you know how to massage cam and what that entails,
I'm
please put it
sure.
in the chat.
I'm sure we could look it up on YouTube.
We could in time for Q&A, we absolutely could take just grab a quick peek since we've all piqued we've piqued your interest with it. Anyways, it's 7 o'clock. It's
Oh,
time to officially welcome you to FUMFA 84. We have with us tonight Elizabeth Strauss and Blake Z. Rong. It's going to be an incredible night particularly of poetry. It's going to be amazing. We're so excited to welcome both of them, and we're going to have a great time. But, Chris, before we get further into the evening, tell us what's also coming up soon.
all right. Well, let's see. Next week on Feb 27, we've got our old friend Vale Larkin coming back.
Yes.
We have a new person, Chris Terracchio from the
CT
Kinetic
Literary Anthology.
Literary Anthology. And the week after that, on the 6th of March, another person. We're getting a whole bunch of people from this anthology. Christine Califas,
So cool.
as well as who else? Cecilia's
Ken
going.
Cormier? Cormier?
Cecilia Martinez Gill. She's on that night, and then the following
Yes.
week we have. Speaking of Nicole, right? We got Nicole Caruso Garcia
Mm-hmm.
and Ken Cormier, who's also from the Connecticut Anthology, and then on the 20th of March, it's open mic night.
We have our open mic night coming up. You got to sign up. You got to sign up. Send us a DM, send us a message, send us an email. We want to get you on that list.
If you're interested in coming on, reading, one or two short pieces, a couple of poems, something like that, please join us to celebrate spring as
Yes.
we have open mic night.
We are really excited for this and for all of those of you who filled out our survey and expressed your interest. We are reaching out to you. We see you, and we are going to, you're on the list. You have your spot. Your spot is saved. So if you already filled out that survey, you're good to go. If you haven't or you forgot, we definitely want more readers. And we have some other group reading opportunities coming up. We're going to do an international writer night. And we'll explain more as that's coming closer. We'll post about it. So we really hope that you'll participate. It's going to be a great time. Speaking of participation, if you would love to get yourself a FUMFA Poets and Writers Live t-shirt, you can PayPal us. You can PayPal us 25 bucks and we will send it to you. You just got to tell us what your color preference is. We've got black, royal blue, and this gorgeous purple right over here, just like my purple that I'm wearing. And we will get that out to you. And thank you very much for supporting us and for watching and for enjoying. If you are not quite desirous of a t-shirt and you'd just like to send us $5 for a beer, you can also do that. We will be so happy. We also have our StreamYard fees and Canva fees, et cetera, et cetera. And so your support would be wonderful if you so desire to do so. Anyways, we need to get going with our show, but in just a moment, because I need to just show you all these
Show these off, huh?
earring shot right now. This is a local earring resin artist. I think she makes other jewelry too. She's her thing is her handle is My Kawaii Moon. Very nice, very lovely stuff. Very lovely stuff. I'm having a hard cider this evening, the rosé one. Nothing local. I know. But I was just in this sort of like the cider rosé sort of mood lately. I was actually thinking about that on Valentine's Day. Oh, it's so pink. It'd be so fun for Valentine's Day. But I had champagne last week, so I was, hold on. It wasn't champagne. It was extra bubbly Moscato.
Yeah, close enough.
I'm not. I'm pleased. I have all kinds of just
It was a bubbly wine beverage that you had last.
an extra bubbly, and I think Moscato already has a bit of effervescence in it. So, it was just like a sweet bomb.
Just to
So
give
if
you
you
more
like
effervescence. I think you need more of that effervescence, Katie, because you just
I don't have enough. I don't have enough. Oh, Chris, that's too funny. That's too funny. Well, we need to bring up our first special guest of the evening,
Liz,
Elizabeth Strauss. Welcome, Elizabeth.
there she is.
How
Got
are
her.
you this evening? You're muted. Just I see that
Oh,
you're
yeah,
muted
I'm
here.
there.
I'm usually pretty good at catching that, but every once in a while I forget to do
Oh,
it.
we're
It's not,
online so much. It's got to get us once in a great while, you know?
What are we almost? We're about a month away from 2 years into when this started, and yeah, I know,
yep,
right?
It's wild. It's wild. It's
yep,
wild.
yep.
Anyways, let's get us into the our feature this evening. Our features this evening. So Elizabeth, let me introduce you with your fabulous bio here. Elizabeth Sophia Strauss, Deadpan Lizzie, the Beanie God, is an author, producer, and real estate advisor residing in New York City. Yes, is founder and producer of the Broadway Brokers Network and the Broadway Stage Management Symposium. Several of her essays, poems, and plays have been produced and published. And in 2021, she was featured in the Touching Tongues anthology with Red or Green Books. She has two more anthologies and a solo book due out in 2022. Congratulations!
Thank
A
you.
guest artist with the Dramatist Guild Foundation. Additionally, ES hosts Deadpan Dope Tuesdays, love that name, with The Word is Right, and has guest hosted several programs with Fincabulary. She regularly performs her poetry at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, BWOMS, and other in-person and online open mics. She has been a Broadway artist for a decade, working on several Tony Award-winning productions, and has taught theater studies at NYU, the University of Rhode Island, Deutsche Pop in Austria and Germany, and of course, the Broadway Stage Management Symposium. As well as educating through miniseries, ES has created and produced available as podcasts, real estate, theater, and art miniseries. And she has competed and coached golf professionally on Long Island and New York City while doing marketing for professional athletics. This is incredible. We need to ask about all this in the Q&A. We're very pumped. As well as the marathon runner, Elizabeth. She will be competing in the inaugural Brooklyn Marathon this April. Rock on. We can't wait to hear you, Elizabeth. Take it
Thank
away.
you. Thank you. I actually had to postpone my inaugural marathon. I have run one, but I will be postponing my second till further later in the year just due to a relocation. But that will not stop me from running. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm going to read 3 poems. I was one of the 31 women published in Touching Tongues anthology with Red or Green Books this year. I'm very honored to be a part of it in that publishing house. The first poem is called My Wet Dream. The room a sauna. As her body thrusts into mine, it becomes even hotter. I bite her earlobes as she bites my nipples. I lose consciousness, waking up to her going down on me, fingering her until dawn breaks. Was it all a dream? I surely hope not. But if it was, what a hell of a wet one. The second poem is called Getting Me Off. Lick my lips, grab my hips, thrust into me rough and hard like a hurricane. I am your power bottom. We scream together, we wake the neighbors, smoke alarms going off, blackout. And my final poem in the anthology is called Power Topping. I'll dim the lights, grab you tight, throw you on the bed. I wrung my tongue all over every inch of you, scream louder. I breathe into your neck, thrust faster into you with my strap on as I become wetter by the second, making you come until dawn breaks. So those are my 3 poems featured in the Touching Tongues anthology. If you're interested in learning more about it, ES_Strauss is my Instagram handle. This next poem I'm going to read is the first poem I ever wrote from 2015. It's called Bloody Masada. It's part of a play I wrote called Later Alligator that has been featured at the Dramatist Guild Foundation amongst other places in New York City. I hear them coming, their steps like a pack of wild elephants chasing us down. The sounds grew closer and I was stuck. My only hope was to climb her. She has stood strong since her birth. She's my only chance at survival. The pounding is near. It will not get softer. Run, run, run. With one swift move of my sword, I am off, scaling her. I see the color of my people red. I wear their colors on my body. I am a canvas of ideas, bravery, and anger. I charge my way up, ideas dying in front of me. Their souls slowly feed into mine as I get closer and closer and closer. I feel the sharpness of her every turn. I now see my colors lie on her. I see it as close as heaven. I'm here. My colors may lay on her, but I did not let them win, and I lay here to rest forever. This piece is called No Two Eyes. No two eyes are the same color. One can be as bright as the sun with warm touches of honey, the other like black paint, thick and wavy. Both have intense passion, honesty, and character in them, exposing us to each other's inner visions. The next two poems are about the New York Poets Cafe, where I am honored to be a main stage and feature regularly there. So this poem is called Gracias. An honor to spit in our holy sanctuary, not swallowing our words, projecting them upon these walls, into every soul who has stepped foot in here, and those who have been present on the Zoom screen. Rich words that hit home, sometimes closer than we want, empowering us to work on ourselves, each other. The spirit of our artistic ancestors are felt as souls linger in every crevice of the temple. The bricks behind me changing colors as new words melt into them, leaving my sparks of creation with the founders. Thank you to Miguel Aguirre and the founders for our holy sanctuary. It took me a long time to finally feel myself, and your spirits have helped me discover this. Gracias. This piece is also dedicated to the New York Poets Cafe. It's called Reflection and Prayer. Kneeling in the balcony of our Sistine Chapel, scripture preached throughout the entire sanctuary, gods leaving their marks on the bathroom walls, as sinks break, christening our place, the congregation rising to praise Miguel, his legacy, and now ours. Painting murals above with our art, a brush never blocked, Miguel's spirit baptizing us while we recite poetry and scripture, songs on the stage below, projecting to the balcony and screens around the globe, a religious connection that touches souls for miles on end, the feeling of never wanting to leave, the church of poetivity. This next piece is called Prompts. Some dislike writing for a prompt. What does that even mean? As life is a prompt. Everything we touch and pass by is a prompt. Inventions are prompts. The dog barking outside you wish would be quiet. The mythical G and Z trains passing by in the middle of the night because you do not know if you dreamed it or if it really happened. As a native New Yorker, I'm saying it was a dream. Your neighbor's having loud sex, and as you lay in your bed listening to them, you start to think he obviously does not know how to pleasure her. Her orgasms sound like a lesbian fucking a man. Has she ever noticed me before? Should I try to catch her by the mailboxes? Are they married? I can't remember either wearing a wedding ring. I'm probably better in bed than him. Oh, he's already finished, unsurprising. All of this is a prompt. Maybe for a poem, this poem is a prompt. So it's ignorant to say you do not care for writing for a prompt. You may not like to write for a specific theme. That's fair. But why? Is it because it makes you connect to certain emotions, ones that are hard to process? Art is how we allow ourselves to write about the hardest obstacles. Now, notice I say it does not make our art better. I don't care for art competitions, how one type of art is better than another. I mean, it's all personal. I mean, you cannot say art is not personal when the pen turns and the letters press into the keyboard and the paintbrush glides on the canvas, the notes flow out of the body. It's all personal. It's all a prompt. Life is a prompt, unpredictable prompts, but those are the best prompts. I mean, we must be comfortable within the uncomfortable. I mean, easier said than done, but not impossible. Nothing is impossible and nothing is ever finished. Life is a prompt. I mean, that's just reality. You know, I may be deadpan reciting this like all of my poetry, but I know my words have hit hard. Just going to take a sip of water before I continue. This next piece is called 7. The pain expanding around my head, down to my neck. A giant rubber band wrapped around my cranium causing the pain. No medication to help alleviate. When it begins to briefly subside, my body still tender, pressing my thumbs against the back of my skull, helpful, but I bore of it. So I put up with the pain, sneezing out my thoughts into a poem while I do not feel like I will puke. Is it a tension headache or something more severe causing the pain? I have said pain 6 times in this poem thus far. If I write it for 7th, will it go away? Will Beetlejuice appear? How do I rid the pain? Next piece is called A POTUS Turns Her Pen. I can sneeze out one powerful panku, 9 words hitting you at your core. Brilliant. My narcissistic Leo and Sagittarius rising overflowing volcano, as I have said. The water in me cooling me down as much as possible. The words flow out of me because I make myself write something for 30 minutes without a break. I don't believe in writer's block. When I get stuck, I just simply write about that. Like I said, life's a prompt. My compass is not broken. It steers me in the direction that I must tackle. We are given one life to lead. If we do not face the good, bad, and evil, we cannot evolve. Tapping on the compass glass will never help. Let it stop when it needs to. Let it take you in every direction possible. There will always be new lessons to learn with each turn. On the harder days, we turn to our significant others if we have one. Single Awareness Month is around here. And I know they say it's just another Hallmark holiday, but it's one I love. And will ever be wrong to shower your person with candies, flowers, mixtapes, or perhaps a beanie? It is nice to spoil them, see them smile when it may not be planned or when it may, but still see them smile. Excuse me. These holidays are necessary. They keep our compasses turning. But damn, do I miss having a special person resting her head on my pillow adjacent to me, divulging secrets, fears, goals, dissecting the meaning of life, performing surgeries with our words, putting the body and soul back together through medicine, and it's a beautiful form of art. Sometimes you want to bask in a love hangover, pillow talk, that unspoken contract you sign when you enter a relationship, signed with blood, saliva, sweat, tears, cum, snot, and vulnerability instead of ink. When you begin a relationship that can turn into a partnership, the butterflies begin to swarm around your belly. When you anxiously approach your first date, concerned your deodorant will not be strong enough to protect you from perspiring, she can tell underneath your 20th chosen outfit the sweat is accumulating because she is sweating under her 20th chosen outfit as well. No perfume that will hopefully turn her off. To cover it up, love perspires. By the time you get to dessert, backgrounds have been exchanged, family histories, divulging secrets, fears, goals. You sip on your decaf coffee, herbal tea, espresso, mate if you want to show off. You ponder if she wants to kiss you, if she wants to see you again. Friend zone you, that's the worst than never seeing her again. You pay the bill, walk the concrete streets to the train, figure out if you should grab her hand, and you go for it. She doesn't flinch, fingers intertwined, feeling each other's pulses through each other's mild skins. The compass has steered you to the train, and you gaze into each other's eyes, and instead of an awkward hug, your cold lips meet at the corner of Avenue A and B, and then you begin to write CD et al. You didn't seal the notebook because it had to be written in, a chapter you knew needed to be penned, a story you get to create over time with her, a new collaboration, untitled for now. I'm just going to take one more sip of water, excuse me. This piece is called What Happens on a 1960s Couch. A prompt was heard. Instead of writing down what I wanted to create, I let a memory forget about it. Somewhat annoyed, I cannot remember what could have been a potentially brilliant creation, but perhaps it was not meant to be. So I kept my fingers turning with other thoughts. Sitting on a 3-legged 1960s couch, an old law textbook holds up the back of the couch where the leg has been missing. It could be replaced, but a piece of history is holding up the couch, myself, my family's history. The tree rings that made each leg of this couch has a story, unsure what tree it was birthed from, what forest it lived in, if it's older than the 1960s, if it was a living, but it was a living, breathing piece of matter. And what now supports my still tight tuchus, friends who spill the tea on here, who get a night's rest from gray streets and noisy pigeons, a Dave Matthews reference as I typed it on that couch, blocking out the pigeon coos, where I've locked lips with the lionesses of the concrete jungle and much more. Sometimes the bed is too far in the heat of passion. We sit on couches to relax, let the tired breaths of our day escape our bodies, eat a meal, watch television, cast spells with our words on mics for clients to have their offers accepted, applications approved, finally get her to come around, create art, get lost in thought, learn. We often forget language is lost, too much filling up our lives. Urban places tend to do that. We forget how to communicate occasionally, offending when we do not mean to, though sometimes it's okay as we are human and we err. The more authentic we are, raw we are, unapologetic, we let the dry skin show. The better we become at communicating when we get out of our head and let our thoughts bleed onto the paper. That is when we are at our best, rattling our peers to their core unapologetically. We can create set lists. The menus have been carefully written, spices blended together precisely. Sometimes a five-star meal. Each of our palates are different. Too much pepper, it potentially is ruined for that dinner. Cooking will always be an extremely vulnerable activity, even when it's just for yourself. You can saute carrots, onions, peppers until they soften. And as they simmer in the garlic and the Lower East Side olive oil, it takes time sauteing, just like you. Eventually, we soften our shells so everyone else can sink in their teeth, not too mushy. And then we add the chickpeas, the coconut milk, the curry, and spices. Blending them together, the chutney masala tastes how it should. Not too spicy, not too soft, just right for now. A meal you have prepared, some could say you perfected, can turn on you later, cramps bubbling up. You begin to shake and sweat, unsure if your favorite meal has disagreed with you, anxiety from the day, a combination of both. We roll the dice when we cook, step out the door, shut the alarm off instead of hitting snooze. We're the jokers running wild, sometimes playing tricks on ourselves' stomachs. But we can get through it and learn if we are vulnerable enough. I will most likely not be able to remember the last prompt as it gnaws at me, but in time I will not let it. Mostly because I despise the silent G in gnawing, a snotty little consonant. I will move about my day with the last poem, and if it pops back into my noggin, it may turn into a piece of art, or I may let it go, minute by minute, with the Doobie Brothers. This next piece is called Hues of Red. Hues of red floating up in the sky, and the pebbles scattered on the walkways, in the bed sheets when my eyes are shut. The color of anger, pain, romance, and sensuality, death. I try not to think about that last one. So many emotions in one stanza, a thought-provoking hue, and yet sometimes you cannot bring yourself to look at it, wish it did not exist. The world would be a very different place without it. One I wish it to never live in. But a positive thought about the color red, my favorite form of it, a long stem rose. Pure and simple, holding every emotion that exists, my favorite emotion. Not until all the petals fall back into the earth will I tell. This next piece is a triolet called My Midnight Dancer. A Cancer sun whose Aries is ruled by the moon. Makes sense why I'm so attracted to her. When she makes her presence, she is as sweet as berries. A Cancer sun whose Aries is ruled by the moon. She is my midnight dancer. She moves through the constellations, making me feel less dense. A Cancer sun whose Aries is ruled by the moon. Makes sense why I am so attracted to her. This next piece I wrote on the train back after the US Tennis Open last summer in New York. It's called Yellow Moon. The train rocked back and forth, my body shaking, feeling as if we would fall into the tracks on the first bitter cold evening of September. No stars in the cloudy navy sky, only the crescent moon. Behind the pre-war buildings of the Long Island city scrapers, the moon a yellow that you only see in cartoons and comics. Sitting behind the rusted bricks, it reflected a paper prop that you may only see in community theater productions. But it was not fake, and it was not a dream. It was just that Saturday night evening yellow moon that could not help but catch my eye on the 7 train that first bitter cold September night. This poem is called I Say a Little Prayer. Sitting inside the crescent moon, pondering away the mysteries of life, as the stars begin to pop in one by one, some of my favorite constellations reveal their stories. Feeling the warmth of the goddess Selene on my back, I relax more into her. Humming an old Aretha Franklin tune, a shooting star passes over, but instead of a wish, I say a little prayer. This piece is called Slowly Descending. I set many goals, some say too many, that I need to make myself less available, which is something I have never understood until now. Though my time out west was not 100% relaxing, it was an awakening, a time to figure out what I want in this new decade of my life. I have many chapters that need to be finished, some that need to be completed before others, and they will get finished in time, but I will try my hardest to not burn myself out. As I climb my Mount Everest and the rest of the year, relief will come in small doses. I took one step towards that relief today. One email that will hopefully help my anxiety and career, not fixating on certain words I crafted in order to communicate my worries, trying not to sweat about it for the next several days, reminding myself it will happen, practicing patience, practicing patience, practicing patience. Do I set too many goals, too high? Have I burnt my talents out before I summit? I don't think so. But what I have learned in the last 23 days is that it is okay to slow down, to not be as available, and to stop comparing myself to others, slowly descending. I will never be like anyone else, and I'm not another character in an Orwellian world. I am me. I am learning to accept who I am and trying to love myself as much as I can each day. Not beating myself up, I ran 1 mile instead of 10. Not letting my day spoil like milk because I decided to sleep an extra 2 hours. Not crying because I could not make an event or a missed connection happen. Not dwelling in the imposter syndrome. Not giving in to FOMO. I must live my life healthfully for me so that I can share my unique talents with those who want it, so that I can positively embrace theirs. Self care and hard talks with yourself are exhausting. But when you are ready to have them, slowly lean into the changes, digest them, and relief feels good. We learn at a young age from the tortoise and hare, slow and steady wins the race. To continue reminding ourselves that this is good and not bad, and that my voice matters, and that my anxiety matters, and that it is never an excuse. Excuse me. This next piece was actually just featured in the Poet magazine recently. It's called Gray Sunsets. Holding the days, bad taste, sorrow, fears, negatively draining into the evening and back into the cold night waves. Why such gloom in the last 24 hours? Our perception. Why do we perceive gray with negativity? Why do we retreat to the unsure in our lives? Gray can be seen as bold, regal, professional, taking action, control back. I find more answers in gray areas over rainbows. Gray days bring life, rain, snow, happiness, joy. Gray sunsets, where the souls who march to the beat of their own drummers thrive. This piece is called Unapologetically. Fixating on the cracks, straining the eyes, putting more stress on our souls and bodies. When we look up at the cracks, reflect upon them, try to understand why the once pristine surfaces are no longer perfect, remembering perfect does not exist. Look through and then past the cracks and let them melt into the universe instead of letting them exhaust us unapologetically. I was given a Winnie the Pooh prompt a year ago in a workshop, and I wrote about oppression. So this is my take on Winnie the Pooh. It's called Their Land of Milk and Honey. I wish we lived in a warm and cuddly honey bear's world where he and his friends live peacefully. where hate will never be tolerated in their land of milk and honey, accepting the diverse richness that each woodland creature shares with us. Some days you want to crawl into the honey pot and never come out, avoiding the stickiness of reality. The 100-acre woods, 100 acres of peace, light, and love, where the oppressed feel brave and safe. We must be brave on our hardest days, not let the salty tears we cry ruin the sweet honey this earth gives us. To paraphrase our honey bear hero, we are braver than we believe, stronger than we seem, and smarter than we think. This piece is called Shalom. Peace, harmony, wholeness, completeness, prosperity, welfare, tranquility, safety, hello, goodbye, and so much more. A word that welcomed me into the world with open arms, that beautifully showcases my religion and culture, my people. I never tire of hearing it, floating along the Mediterranean Red Seas, bringing life back from the dead, from the north all the way to Jerusalem and the Holy Wall, our wall. The way it rolls off tongues, as delicious as shawarma. It is not a word that isolates anyone. It is how we welcome in our day, each week. It embraces who we are, who I am. It will guide me for eternity. Shalom. This piece is called 5 Miles. 5 miles one way and 5 miles back. Roads I have driven and run more times than I can count, for better and worse. How 15 minutes felt like an eternity. Unsure what would happen next, what will happen. Wishing they would heal sooner. Wishing they could not feel pain. 5 miles one way to help. 5 miles back to fear. That road will never feel the same. The pavement holding new cracks. Will it be a road to recovery or one that takes them to their paradise? Selfishly wishing recovery. But I do not know what Hashem has in store. She works in mysterious ways. If I had a superpower, it would be to take away people's pain. Can you take away their pain? Do manners matter in this case? Can you give them more time? All the time. Because I am not ready to let them go, and I will not give up on them. Can you reach into their heart and soul and help them? 5 miles one way and 5 miles back, with all of my heart. So something I created on New Year's Eve of 2021.
Elizabeth, we have time for maybe one more. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I have how much more time?
Actually, we're just a smidge over, but we could do one more.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We're loving it. We're entranced by your calm voice and your incredible scenes and personal moments. We're loving it, but we could do maybe one more.
Yeah, sure. I'll just quickly thank you so much for having me, and I hope everyone's enjoyed my set. I'll read one more piece. Something I created a style of poetry at the end of 2021 on New Year's Eve called Pankus. Pankus are either 9-word poems or 9 lines of 9-word poems or 9 stanzas, 9 lines each stanza, 9-word poems. The pan from Deadpan. So I will read one that is 9 lines of 9 words. It's called 9 Exhausted and Scared Pankus. My neck hurts with no one to rub it. My sore body tired of my heavy throbbing mind. My tired mind bored of my aching body. My hands that sting from the cold need someone who needs someone here to make them warm again. My brain exhausted from watching HBO and hot screens, watching what is outside my windows, hoping for help, longing for some of what they have going on. I don't have this, and I'm curious if I will. Thank you so much.
Woo! Elizabeth, you created a form. That's awesome. And I love that the pan is for Deadpan Lizzie. A panku.
Panku. I actually have thank you. I have a book coming out about it with Red or Green Books later this year. It's called Kondu Beanie. I'm so sorry I went over. I didn't even realize it.
Please, no worries. We were like, oh, I hardly noticed. And then I was like, oh.
Time flies. And boy,
Well,
I mean,
you're doing awesome poetry.
You read, a lot of poems there because you write short-ish poems there. So you were just Hang on, I'm out. Bang, bang.
Boom, boom,
I got,
boom,
think,
boom.
it's actually hard to put a set together because I have some are longer and most are short, but I got over 10,000 poems over 6 years.
Oh my
So I
god!
know, not all will be published. Some I'll just keep for myself on my desktop, a
I
lot in
love that.
books. But putting a set when you're featured, putting a set together is almost like, oh my God,
Well,
what do I read?
what do I want? How
Yeah.
would I want to shape this
Well,
particular
Yeah,
reading
good
performance?
problem
Yeah,
to have. It's a good problem to
it
have.
is a good problem to have.
it
Um,
is a good problem to
for
have.
the Q&A. Q&A is going to be great. So
It
we'll
is. It is. I have a
talk
lot of
about poo
questions.
poos. We'll talk about those dirty poems, and
Woo!
we'll talk about golf and theater and everything else. So
Absolutely. Thank you
We're
so much for having
excited.
me.
Everybody
Nice.
stay tuned. Save your questions, all right? Because I removed myself. Oh, and now I'm on the other side of the screen. I'm all messed up. Okay, hold on. All right. Let me compose myself. Elizabeth, thank you so much. We will see you in the Q&A.
Thank you.
And now we need to welcome, I know, oh gosh, I'm really throwing everyone off here. I'm so sorry. We need to welcome our next special guest, Blake Zerong. Welcome, Blake.
Hey, Blake.
Oh, you're muted. Oh, Blake, you're muted. Sorry. Oh, Blake, go ahead and unmute yourself from the bottom there, from your
Right,
there you go.
right. I forgot how these things work, but
Yes.
yeah, I'm trying to, my bed is messy because my cat is over there somewhere. You can
I
kind of
love
see him
it.
over there. So, yeah, his name's Moose, and he's been thanked to my book. So this is my book.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
I am not young and I will die with this car in my garage. I absolutely love that title.
That's right. I'm
I
not young. I would have this car in my garage. So gonna read a couple things in here. I have a couple long form poems in here that are like 5 parts. So I think we don't have enough time to do that sort of
Oh,
thing.
it's
So
gonna be
we'll
you're
do that.
gonna be perfect. And even if we cut into Q&A a little bit, that is absolutely fine. Chris is gonna read your bio to introduce you, Blake. Chris,
Yes.
go for it.
Yeah. I just want to read your bio here. So Blake
Yeah.
Zerong is a writer living in Brooklyn. He recently received an MFA in writing and publishing from the Vermont College of Fine Arts. His debut collection of poetry, which we just saw, I Am Not Young and I Will Die with This Car in My Garage, was published by Atmosphere Press in August 2021. His short stories and poetry have appeared or are forthcoming in Poetica Review, Vagabond City, Luna Luna, and Iselle magazine.
Awesome.
Blake hails from Central Massachusetts and is currently working on a collection of stories. Take it away, Blake.
Yeah, great. I'm gonna start with a couple things that have been published before. This is my first Cities and Dust. In this perfect howl of emptiness, I conjure you from blankets and linens and sheets of paisley. Your name perched gingerly on the tip of my tongue, singing the words to describe your alabaster body, haired of sandstone, navel lit aglow and the looking glass pool where your ear meets your neck. But I never dared to speak, my mouth rich with dead tons, until you became a once sweet thing whose taste had worn out. For days I couldn't sleep, so concerned with survival that I forgot to dream. This was what I once wanted, to be surrounded by reveries, echoing across the hideous distance between your words and my lips. Like the gladiator who's made it this far, kneeling on the ground of the amphitheater, searching for my missing limbs, clawing the last few minutes of indecision. I close my eyes to wake in the ashen fields, hearing the long grass rustle, sweet Herculeum, where in the house of the fawn I dream of making love to you, wearing nothing but your hat. I'm gonna do one that's very New York. This is called A Letter from the IKEA in Red Hook, Brooklyn. I'm sure everyone who's in New York has been there at least once in their life. You can take a ferry there. Fun fact. I was imagining a future I can never have, wandering ghost-like through other people's homes. An accumulation of lives hypothetical, cardboard televisions and rows of fake books, beautiful lily-white strangers staring back from riba frames, invented families conjured from scratch and leading effortlessly into other rooms, other families, other apartments, other realms, like switching a television channel. Follow the arrows. Pathways like arteries through some great organ, like intestines arranged, flowing to some end, its consciousness unknown, yet working towards the goal of keeping one alive. I want people to hear my body scream, vibrating across these plasterboard walls, tucked head to toe on a clip-in couch below a linoleum-stained antique, curled up on a black malm, hugging my knees close to my chest, while a young couple soft shuffle past sofas and textiles and wardrobe and cafe, as my cat paws at an empty food bowl and then at my face. Fuck it. I'll buy matching sheets, my favorite pastels, view the combed cotton bath towels, run my fingers through the low pile rugs, touch the fuzzy leaves of artificial plants. Ingenious solutions! And flatware storage and organizational designs for lighting fixtures. And smarter men than I have engineered my kingdom where I hide like a stomping ghost, haunting my fourth floor walk-up, driving my neighbors insane with hammers and nails and slamming doors and midnight calls to the motherland. Don't tell this to my landlord. I'll perish into the walls. I will dissolve into next year's heat. I will smile at the employees from behind my French blue face mask. Please, keep your distance. I've been doing it for years. If we now demand a faux sincerity, then listen, friend, I can provide it in spades. All right. I'm going to read one called A and P. This was inspired by I think this was John Cheever short story. I loved you like a dead novelist loves his metaphor of America while wandering these supermarket shelves along bounties of lettuce and strawberries, past kettle chips and boxes of spaghetti, aisles of Italian, Mexican, international, shuffling his cart with fillets of salmon, trimmed neatly with all the bones removed for your convenience. He sees bathing girls at the checkout counter. They stare blankly at the parking lot, waiting for the Pontiac Catalina to pull up with their boyfriends in tow. Just for the summer, but one summer only. Rose pink cheeks and zucchini noses, flowers across our faces, squinting cloves for eyes. They knew that we could never last a year. Everything good and beautiful is eventually wrapped in plastic. Also, I just realized this was probably written by John Opdyke, so sorry. Here's a poem that was published.
No worries,
recently.
Blake. We love.
Yeah. This is called The Good Kind. I ain't the good kind of Asian. I'm the one who disappoints you. I see it in your eyes when we go out for sushi, and I forget what nigiri is. I feel across your tattoos I'll kiss someday. Koi fish samurai and fishermen's wives, wide-eyed cats with claws outstretched, characters faded, indecipherable, strewn like wreckage across your arms. And someday I too will be dissolved in lost Vax vaporwave, neon and pink and crystalline, clad in red and yellow camouflage. Listen, my people were pulled from the dirt along the botflies and the rifle butts, feigning death deep in the surface of the earth. Before they embarked on a long march, their feet sore, their bellies aching, knowing the pain but no potential, then self-destructing like streams of firecrackers. Knowing the words but not the melody. Let me teach you the curse words of my language. I will flip through pages of dictionary, tracing them into my skin with a crimson pen. Someday I'll learn how to pronounce them right. Someday we'll all do our parents proud. Someday, somewhere out there, Alphonse is still trapped in that endless suit of armor. I'm going to do a poem that I wrote about a dead friend. This is called There Will Be a Song for When They Find Your Body, and it is dedicated to Davy G. Johnson. Fast as a shark who wanted it way too loud, your god, an angry god. You were incandescent, a flame-kissed tear in a Sierra Nevada wind, 40 degrees Fahrenheit and dropping. You climbed California State Road 49 in sun-stroked plastic and aluminum trellis atop 998 cubic centimeters of raw, whining power, while the sun cast its final warmth of the day upon the ghosts of cannibals. You were not without scars on your brain and your body. You had felt grief like a new limb, the void of an absent hand whose movements you could still quite grasp. You had screamed through sheets of drywall in San Pedro, bracing yourself against the saltwater spray, yet you always knew what time it was. Stainless steel Rolex, a kaleidoscope curse. On the day you turn from the current, you cast a gaze at North Fork below, where the ducks take flight, like silent seaplanes, 2 in a row. Hadn't you heard once that they made it for life? The last creatures on Earth, you must have said to her on the day that you proposed, in the Four Seasons lobby in Ferragamo slippers. Apologies, please, but these memories flood my bones in your stead. Like circling Lake Tahoe, my last few desperate miles across the divining lines. 4 in the morning, watching you through the windshield as you had a lover before these headlights, before we dropped down to San Francisco Bay. We flew airplanes in your backyard. That morning, I had driven from Playa del Rey, all staircase wit in your ranch-style house. And I believed back then that my friends would last forever, that rushing water wouldn't dissolve your body, cell by cell, wispy and white, like egg drop soup. All rage ends pointed towards the skies, for it knows not what echoes through its negative space from this void. We expect no answers, commit no faults, and we can blame no one else. Not the sausage creature, not the year of the goose. Maybe the future was coming. Maybe it was written in your stars. And when they find your body, we will sing, we had sung all along. I'm going to do a weird one right now. Is that cool? Okay,
We love weird. We love weird. Bring it on.
great. Okay, it's called Mariograph. The first doomed sailor, flinging himself headlong into the tempest. Flightless captive bird, last of its kind, still breathing, seeming to a ghost. Summer in July, the heat resides in your bones, the stains on your dress. Get so nervous, I pirouette like a GB, fabric wings on fire. Soldiers raising their spears, in formation, phalanx charge, merging long night. Pleiades crash into the last creatures left on Earth at mating season. What is it, you ask? I can never answer, yet you have no mouth. This one's called Indie Undergrowth. I sweep the dew across my fingertips, drops like chalky water gleaming like cubic zirconia tumbling from a velvet pouch. We could have made it through this year, even if it killed us, a year made rotten with the cracking of knuckles. In the throat of this earth, I listen to the end of the world, leaving dead messages in its wake, wearing these grim moods like a tattered suit that still fits. A hunter's bullet pierces the skies, a glass of Montepulciano, a ruckus, a calling, a flock of seagulls ascending. The soil was made to break my heart. I'm going to read the title poem from, once again, this book. This is called I Am Not Young and I Will Die With This Car in My Garage, and it is dedicated to Anne Sexton, legendary confessional poet from the mid-60s. The first part is a 5-part poem, so don't worry, it's not going to be too long. The first part is called On the Nature of Darkness. You know, I've never actually read this in person before, so you are in for a treat. And if it sucks, please tell me afterwards. But for now, the first part is called On the Nature of Darkness. Everyone goes away in the end. It's a curious thing, this old box of bolts, sputtering and clumsy, with the smoke of 1,000 lost seasons. It's a mouthful of dead languages on the tip of your tongue, a set of instruments that can't sense the hours, needles shuddering like they've been viewed through a flickering light, a Cold War relic dripping oil wherever it goes. But I'm more than just a pun on my name from my 6th grade English teacher. Here, let me try again. Reborn as a cat in the Hermitage, surrounded by treasures, hanging on the tomb walls and the paupers' graves. This could all be mine, you say, particularly these sad, bruised bones. But I don't go to church anymore. I try not to drive. I wake up hearing the neighbors squirm and moan, shaking the wall with some new man she's got. The cruelty is the point, to wander, useless and afraid, lost in the archives, filtering through bookshelves, listening for breath, jumping at the sound of unlocked doors. Lift the hood skyward, see how its ink defies us. Seeping like lost wax, hear its valves squirm under the pressure we give it. Laugh lines across its torn leather seats, matched maps to dead nations lost and hidden from sight. We have always demanded perfection. Give me another reason to break. The second part is called Someone Had Climbed to the Top of the Bell Tower. Evicted all the bats with a broom handle. Scraped thin lines into the ceiling above, where the mold once lay, thick and dripping with sarcasm. But I am in the garden, running my fingers across bougainvillea. I watched a fountain burst into laughter, each drop of water a miniature planet, gleaming like cubic zirconia spilled from a pouch. Some might say that this is a lost year, just one more lost year in this great and grotesque world, but the dreams stayed behind, refusing to answer us. For all those summer days, I couldn't sleep, jumping off balconies in Williamsburg, drowning in Tylenol on the howling trains just to see if anyone notices. Like you, I am tired of feeling brave. Aren't you just so tired of feeling? Don't you tire of the siren songs to your own weariness? The gap in the floorboards is a wound in my throat. So concerned with survival that I forgot to dream. How many existences scream from these stone walls? Once I drew a snake with too many legs, and I left it at that. This is part 3. This is called Angle of Attack. But you must remember that a car's interior burns the brightest. Smash the side window with anything at hand, a wrench, a tire iron, 2x4 that you swing like Jackie Robinson. Soak the rag against the spout. Take care not to spill. Through the window frame, it'll catch in an instant, sweeping through torn leather, sunken foam, heating up the seat coils like a burning stove. Have I ever steered you wrong? After all, I am my mother's keeper. You say that I am capable of monstrous things, and yet my heart is not in it. We Americans, too pessimistic about the thought of death, view each ending as cause célèbre, as if we have never cried in private. Listen, the guillotine swish is the modern sound. It's efficient in 3 distinct dimensions, purity and precision, a well-weighted machine with such grace that I weep at its elegance. But loneliness is a birth condition with no known cure, and my demons have caught up to me like braying dogs. I hope to see you out there someday, where we once wrote letters to each other, letters for the future, keeping the generous ones close to us, as long as your bravery lasts. But until then, there are no more innocents. Write down their names. Leave nothing to chance. Spit on your hands. Know where your heart lies. Know when to stay for the big show. The bomb under the floorboards. Ready for final exit. The big finish. All right, 2 more. Just bear with me, please. I swear. So we all be over soon.
Go for it, Blake.
I'm just kidding. I'm being very pessimistic about myself right now, but that's just something I need to talk to my therapist next week. So just saying. Anyway, this is called Lament for Ivan Dezenovich. For a long time, I woke up early. This morning, in bed, I read about Anne Sexton and the marriage of Robert Lowell and of Elizabeth Hartwick and of Lowell's insanity and the Christian martyrs Perpetua and Felicity and Tadeusz Kosciuszko and the history of English muffins and Herb Peterson, who invented the Egg McMuffin, and the movie Chungking Express, and the myth of the Wendy's Super Bar, and a recipe for Singapore-style noodles, and Richard the Iceman Koljinsky, and the Judeo-Christian mayor of Quincy, Massachusetts. I got out of bed, put my feet on a scratchy hardwood floor, felt like my stomach was churning with its lost equilibrium, hungry with the otherness. I just wanted to devour the world before I leave it. How can you expect a man who's warm to understand a man who's cold? Someday, I will be welcomed back into the land of the living. And then, part 5, the destruction of everything. My darling, the syrupy smell of death is wild and young and free. Are you your blood or your skin? You, formless, a cat like water who sinks teeth and claws into my temples. I, unearthed from a sunken tomb, a gift more trouble than what it's worth. I am at the mercy of my prey. America is a dead language, a tongue that bends in half when you least expect it. A people staring blankly in forgotten rooms, waiting for some unmarked disaster. They are cursed to remember everything. This is how the first humans slept with rocks pressed to their temples. But what is past never passes. For not even God is allowed to touch you, you false king of kings. how quickly you've forgotten the finery of your lifetimes. Yet I still remember forever wounded like radiation, striking the body long after spring's first blast. I am my mother's burden, napalm in my kidneys with the fuel rods spent. I will always be your case study, knees drawn to my chest, a corpse unfurrowed, bathed in lightning, bathed in heat. Tons wrapped in barbed wire, its life pooling at the base of your neck. I think that's probably all I'm gonna do for tonight. So,
Woo! Blake, we really enjoyed your poems. That IKEA
thank you. I
poem,
appreciate it.
How relatable is that IKEA poem, though?
Oh, I know. I think everybody out there was like, "Oh yeah, I know."
Oh yeah, yep. All those feelings, those images. I love. I quoted a line over here. It's where he said, "What like." Fuck it, I'll buy matching sheets in my favorite pastels. It was hilarious, but also your title poem was so powerful, and you kind of go from humor to the abstract to these very powerful realizations. I really enjoyed your poems, Blake. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate this. This is really fun.
Of course.
It's our pleasure.
Well,
You know,
I think I stumbled on your book somewhere online, and I said that is such a great title. Guy
right?
needs to be on here.
Yeah, I love a long, unwieldy title. So,
oh yeah.
yeah.
And then you're like, what is in that book? I have to know.
Yep.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we are very excited to bring Elizabeth Strauss back up for our Q&A time. Everybody get your Q's into the chat. Let's give another round of applause for Elizabeth Strauss and Blake C. Rong. Woo! Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It was so great to hear both of you. It's always awesome, to get to, invite special guests and just make connections. Our community is amazing, and we're always hearing incredible writing from FUMFA alums and faculty. But it's so cool to connect with the both of you, and we're excited. All of our live streams are archived and public on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So save this, share this, embed it if you want. And we'll keep kind of building our community. Anyhow, we have our famous first question. It's a newer question. It's becoming as famous as our last question. But while people are typing their questions in the chat, Chris, will you go ahead and ask our famous first question?
Of course. Well, let's start with Elizabeth, and it's a very simple question. How has writing changed your life?
Wow. You say it's simple, but it's not.
Right.
No, it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Yes, that's better. That's a good way of putting it. It has changed my life in the sense that I have become much more confident. I started writing professionally, actually as a playwright, when I was 23, I think. I said I've been it's been a minute. I've been a Broadway artist since I graduated from college and a little before, and I work primarily in tech and stage management for the last a little over a decade. I went to college for it, and just in between stage management contracts, I needed to figure out what I was going to do at that time. And I just started writing a play and just started writing dialogues, and people kept telling me to go. And then that morphed into essays. And then I started writing poetry about 5 or 6 years ago because of a broken heart, which a broken heart will lead you to write in 10,000 poems.
It sure will. Yeah, you know what?
Relatable. Absolutely.
Totally. Got to get her shit out. So, what?
Just 10,000? That's all?
I didn't realize it till one day, and then like my Tumblr counted it for me, and I was like, but my poems are very short, as you see. They're kind of little thesis poems primarily. Right. So you know, it sometimes, but there are days where I just sit, especially now because I'm putting several books together. I sit and I'm like, oh yeah, I just got like 10 poems out of my body. Okay, so you know, but I just, and that's kind of the point of Pankus because I don't believe
And
in writer's
who's?
block.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't believe in writer's block. So it's a way for people, even if it's just starting out with 9 words, just write about something. Like I just can't think, okay, well, here's a bottle of seltzer. Write 9 words about a bottle of
Right.
seltzer, and then
Right.
over time, and not necessarily in the next 10 minutes, the next day, the next week, but over time, you'll get back into your rhythm. And that's kind of the beauty of writing shorter poems.
And I loved what you said in that particular poem where you're like, everything is a prompt. Life is a prompt. Like
That's
you
right.
don't necessarily need a book of prompts, although those are really fun.
Yeah.
Everything is prompting you, everything you're observing. What is a thought? It doesn't necessarily have to be this very specific thing limited to this, one
Yeah. And that's,
approach. I love that.
yeah. And that's what I love when I go on certain workshops and certain open mics. Sometimes there are prompts and themes, but there
Yeah.
are no limits. You know, you're
Yes.
saying write about Winnie the Pooh,
Right.
but artistic license, write about what you
Yeah.
want. And the reason I wrote that poem was I actually had faced discrimination at work
Mm.
that day.
Oh no.
And I didn't want to not go. Thank you. I didn't want to not go to the open mic I was going to be at. And I didn't know what to write about Winnie the Pooh. I was like, I don't know. But then I just threw that together and it worked, you know.
There's always a way in. There's a connection, and especially when you kind of it seems like you are so it's so getting into that flow is so accessible for you, and you find so many ways in, and you're kind of just like rolling with it each day and kind of keeping that pen moving, keeping the words
Thank
moving,
you.
that it's like it's almost guaranteed that you're going to find a way in and come out with something totally authentic and powerful, and that's really awesome. And we kind of have noticed this with our other very incredibly prolific new yo poets who often feature there, that they just have a ton of material and it just seems like it's just flowing on a daily basis, and that is so inspiring and exciting, because sometimes like when you're just editing and editing and editing, you can really overwork something, could really kind of you know get into this mode, and it just feels like you need to kind of get back to that flow, and I feel like so many of you guys like have that, and
Yeah.
that's something absolutely amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you. And
I don't believe in when people tell me they have writer's block. I say you have get your butt in the chair block.
yeah. Well, it is really intimidating sometimes.
It can be.
It can be, especially for me to be like, what haven't I written about already? Because I don't want to be too repetitive. It's okay to be repetitive, but I don't want to be too repetitive. And I will
Right.
say prompts are a beautiful thing. My second solo, I guess it will be my third solo book of poetry coming out in 2023. Because of the New York Poets Cafe and FUMFA and many other workshops and mics I've attended, that book is actually mostly full of the prompts they gave us. So I
Nice.
was able to in about 8 months, just because, which is great. It's kind of like, and it's very diverse and rich, and I
Yeah.
call it's called Shades of Strauss because it is different shades of me. And the Winnie the
Cool.
Pooh poem will be in there, and many
The
of the
Pooh poem.
Nuyorican Winnie the Pooh,
Yeah.
Yolanda, Milk and Honey, and many Vocabulary and Nuyorican Poets Cafe and other platforms I've featured or attended. Because of their prompts, it does help you put a book
Absolutely.
together.
And it kind of
And
helps you like take it like in a different
yeah,
direction than you might just kind of already be feeling or already be focusing on. And that can be so good too. But
yeah.
I'm dying to know, Blake, how has writing changed your life?
That's a
That's a
honestly
massive
that's an interesting
question.
question to me because I feel like I was always a dork who wanted to be a
Yes.
writer when I was a kid. I was obsessed with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when I was growing up, and I wrote like depressing essays for on my Zanga page in like
Zanga.
2002 or whatever.
Love it.
Honestly though, what has changed my life is my MFA program actually introduced me to poetry and as well as other genres. I'd always wanted to write a novel, and I went into this MFA program in 2017.
Mhm.
Wanting to write a novel, and I hadn't thought about poetry since in forever. I just thought, well, why don't you just delete the line breaks and make it an essay or whatever? Yeah. But we read some really amazing poetry collections.
Nice.
So the poet I, who wrote Vice, and then
Yes.
Matthew Dickman came and taught us, and then Bianca Stone was one of our professors as well, and
Nice.
we studied Roland Barthes and everything. And I think I honestly was the one that really was. You could write like really raw, visceral, even violent poems about personas and such, and I
Right.
was kind of inspired
Absolutely.
by that. And I was also
Nice.
going through a heartbreak or whatever. So I
Yep.
mean, I
I
was,
hear
but
ya. I hear
yeah.
ya.
And this just kind of happened through all of this. So
That's awesome, Blake. It just
yeah,
became the right outlet at the right time, the right form at the right time, the right genre at the right time. And also, hey, you can still write that novel, and it looks like you are. And I
I'm
think
working on
the
it. Yeah,
both of them can kind of inform each other. And we always like to quote our friend Charles Rafferty. Well, I do. I quote him all the time because he writes flash fiction and some really interesting fiction and also prose poetry. And he was on here telling us that he doesn't necessarily see the line between the two anymore when it comes
absolutely. Yeah.
to certain things. And I think that's very,
Yeah.
very cool. You may be,
It's just the what you
yeah,
can experiment with language, and then it will obviously inform the rest of your work. There's so many poets who've written novels and vice
yes,
versa. Yeah.
yes.
So
Did you? I'm sorry. Did you, Blake? Did you, when you went into the MFA program, did you go in intending to write fiction, or did you at that point were you saying, "Okay, I'm going to concentrate on poetry"?
I intended on writing fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
got, you got
Came over to our side, Chris.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the poetry
Sorry.
editor, so sorry, don't apologize. Chris is our kind of our fiction representative, our prose representative, and I do only poetry. But we have had so many mentors and friends who are double, triple threats out there writing fiction and poetry, writing memoir, nonfiction, fiction and
Oh,
poetry.
everything. The lines are all blurred, and Elizabeth
Exactly. Yeah.
plays.
Yes,
So
right, Elizabeth. Yes, and
Yeah.
essays.
yeah. I mean, everybody's writing everything now. It's like,
Absolutely love it.
well,
As
Absolutely
you
love it.
should. Yeah.
everybody's
Absolutely.
genre fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I wrote a screenplay when I was in grad school, and it really helped me work with working out dialogue because that was always my weak point. And I wrote a
Ah,
screenplay. It's never gonna get published, but it was just
you
nice
never
You
know.
to.
don't. They never say never.
I
Yeah,
love the
yeah.
structure of it. Yeah, I love how formal it is. So
I
I
love
have no
that. I
constraints.
absolutely love
Yeah.
that. Elizabeth, tell us more about your many artistic venues here. So you are on Broadway. You are still involved, I believe, in kind of the playwriting stage world, and you are very much in these last several years have become a prolific poet and performer at Nuyo. How do these worlds like cross over and like inspire each other? Do you
Yeah.
feel it's like kind of all the same world for you? I mean, it is your world,
I mean,
but
a little. I am still a Broadway artist. As I said, I went to college for stage and production management, and never. I didn't write poetry in college. I didn't write like that in college. What I wrote for until I was like 23 was production and rehearsal reports. But
right.
I've been told, and I still am told, I write the best in production rehearsal reports because I tell like a story and not just, okay, we're going to skip to our section as we're writing like the mythical G and Z train back to Brooklyn, looking, okay, the lighting department has no notes, great. And then no one reads anything else. I actually read it so that you're like, oh, wait, I am reading like someone else's notes because it is important, of course, not just be like, okay, what department do I work in? And that the theater didn't burn down. That's no, but in all honesty, like, and I'm sorry for anyone watching that has, have your hopes and dreams on coming to Broadway. I'm just saying, if you're a stage manager, you're gonna do that. A lot of people are just gonna scroll through and make sure the theater didn't burn down and look at their section. That's just the reality of it.
Right.
But I did that and then turned to playwriting, and I've had many workshops and labs of my plays over the years in New York,
Nice.
and then I started, like I said, writing poetry just for myself as a page poet. I never had any intention of doing it live.
Right. How did
Before
that happen?
COVID, I was stage managing, and I don't stage manage anymore. I actually just read for it now, a Shakespeare sonnet slam which is People of Our
Awesome.
Ability. Yes, it's my friend Melissa, Melinda Hall, her company Willful Pictures, and it's coming up soon. The Shakespeare Sonnet Slam, and that's all
God,
virtual.
slam. I
Yeah,
love
we would
that.
go through. We used to in person over the course of a day read all of Shakespeare's sonnets, and it was
I'm
really
gonna attend
fun.
this. It's awesome.
Yeah, you can do it online now. I can send you if you remind me. I'll send you the
Please,
link,
please.
and they would give you a number, and in addition to stage managing it, I would read. And I didn't the first year because I was shy, and then the second year is like Melinda was like, you're getting on stage, and you're gonna read a sonnet. It's fine. You don't have to be like a professional actor, and
Yeah,
it was awesome. And then
so cool.
that was really the only spoken word poetry I did, which was Shakespeare's poetry, wasn't my poetry. And then my dear friend and colleague Romy Nordlinger, who I was her lighting designer and her stage manager for several years on her play Garden of Allah. And the last time I had done it was at the Kennedy Center, and then COVID hit.
Oh,
And yeah, and then the world shut down, and I was still writing poetry a little bit, and I had already had a publisher for my second solo book coming out this year, Intervisions, and which one of the poems I read tonight is from Intervisions. And I said to Romy, I said, "Do you think that like I should do spoken word poetry just to see if I can do it?" She's like, "Yeah, of course."
it's like
And I
hell
said,
yeah.
and I said, like, where, like, and I knew of the New Rican Poets Cafe. I had never been to any of their open mics or poetry events or slams. So I had been there several years ago for a play, actually. So they do other things there. They do
Yeah,
many different artistic events. And La
yeah.
Bruja, if you're interested, find La Bruja NYC on Instagram. She's the new executive
La
director.
Bruja.
Yeah, I love her so much. And she's the new executive director. So ping her if you want to learn more about that, or go to their website. And I couldn't figure out how to get an artist ticket first, and then I finally figured out, because it was kind of like the Hunger Games for a while. You had to, like, at 8 o'clock, like at night, on a
Yes, it was
Sunday night,
hot.
like now it's probably sold out. You had to get that artist ticket, and I
Yeah.
got it. And on, I think it was my half birthday in January of 2021, I just
Your
was
half
like,
birthday.
yeah, I think so. I turned like 29 and a half, and I was like, all right. And
I need to know my half birthday. What is it? Oh,
it's 6
sorry.
months before, after your birthday. So
Yes, yes.
yeah, and there happened to be no theme that night, but at the time I didn't know there were prompts for that. Like, I wasn't a part of their social media. I didn't go on their website regularly. I just knew of the cafe, given I'm a native New Yorker, and I had worked as stage
Yeah,
manager at the Wild Project many years in my 20s down the street from them.
yeah.
And I read one of the poems I read tonight, and Advocate of Words, who's the MC for Monday
Yes,
night, he
yes.
was like, he was wearing a beanie too, and I just wear a beanie, by the way. It's not like a persona. I know many people think it
I
is.
think it is now.
It is now, but for me, I'm also just comfortable. I'm always just very cold, and I'm just always kind of a hipster and in tight jeans and just
Yeah.
comfortable in what I wear. And I read my poem, Deadpan, which I didn't realize the way I read my poetry, I didn't realize was so dry, but apparently it is. And he's like, everyone give it up for the beanie wearing soul sister. And I was like, oh,
It's like, oh,
okay.
wow.
What's that? And because
That's who
I
I
wasn't,
am, baby.
and he's such a wonderful host, and he makes you feel so comfortable and safe, and he's
Yeah.
very charming. I wasn't planning on going back. I was like, I'm going to do it once on a Monday and get it out of my system and just be like, okay, Romy, I did
Right.
it. And then I just kept going back because I was really enjoying it, and it turned into a thing. And my poetry world feels very different from my Broadway world. I mean,
But
yes,
then, like, you were crossing over into it, and
yeah.
it became something regular for you.
Yeah, I mean, I do
Nice.
it. I host now
Woo!
several
Yeah, that's
platforms,
right.
which is nothing I thought I'd do. I'm regularly featured. I've been lucky enough to perform many times in feature at the
Nice.
cafe since it started opening back up. And and I also make time for my Broadway community, and I'm also, I work in real estate, which is own form of art,
That's
and
right. That's
that,
right. That's right. You're doing so much, communicating and
yeah, I am
performing in
doing
all
so
these
much
different kinds of
communication.
ways. but we have, thank you so much, Elizabeth. That is such an awesome story of all of these connections and how that developed. We have a fabulous question from Melissa Slattery. Thank you so much, Melissa, for Blake. And I'm really interested in this too. Can Blake discuss how the last 5-part poem developed? The title poem, right?
Right.
Yes, that was
So
very powerful.
I'm going to give you some background. I used to be a car journalist, and I have always been a huge nerd about old cars. And I drive
Nice.
an old Saab,
Nice.
and I kind of wrote this based around the idea that you have this old ass car, but you don't really need it, and it just keeps leaking oil, and you feel as old as the car. I feel like at this point, I'm just like,
yeah, you kind of share each other's vibes a little bit, right? Like you're making the car a little
absolutely.
younger, it's making you a little older.
How did
I
that,
think
how did that become a 5-part poem?
Five-part poem was kind of stringed together around Anne Sexton. I know she's very problematic. I mean, she could be problematic as well. She's a very complicated character. I really latched onto her confessional poems at an early age, and I really was interested in the fact that she did commit suicide. And the fact that she did have all this tragedy in her, and then also a lot of other things that do complicate her legacy.
Right.
I think that just trying to explore that through this kind of anger that happened during the last couple of years and everything like that, political wise, and also trying to see where I fit myself into this world. I was writing about what it would be like to be in that kind of position. So
Right.
it's not necessarily just a collection about what it's like to be Asian or something like that. It's a lot about what kind of drives you to be in a position that has you staring into maybe a garage with the engine running or something like that.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think that was what this was an ode to, and luckily it does get better in the book and my life as well. And if I'm being honest, it is. It was a really tough read. It was confessional, I suppose.
Totally.
It does fit with Robert Lowe, who was an asshole. Yeah, he terrible to his wife. Yeah, a lot of those 60s, a lot of 60s poets, they were terrible.
They were not great people.
No, and they couldn't necessarily hide behind the force of their art. If anything.
No, and it's certainly not today.
Not today, absolutely not. Yeah,
and they may have somehow been able to pass some level of scrutiny then, and they shouldn't have. But certainly now they don't get away. They don't get away with anything. And so we have these sort of complicated relationships with these particular poets and authors where we kind of appreciate the work and we try and learn from it, but we're like also. We acknowledge, we recognize.
Right. But I'm very curious about how it goes from okay, I'm going to write a poem about this to it being sectional, right? It's 5 parts. Yes. Like, when you sit down, do you say, okay, this is going to be a 5-part poem, or do you say, is this going to be a poem, and then you cut it into 5 parts, or is it like? Or is this
it emerges over time?
You're done, and then
I think it all fit the theme. I think this is kind of like my thesis in here. Ooh. When you're when you're going to school, you do the 5-part essay where it's like the beginning intro and then the 3 paragraphs about essay. And then the conclusion. I feel like this was closer to the conclusion. And I have a couple part poem in here, but it's also about the Soviet space program. So it's very nerdy. But
awesome.
Yeah, but I didn't want to read that because I ended up reading the first part, and it is a persona poem in the vein of I. And the first part is very it's very out there. And then it gets a little bit more nuanced, I hope it does. But anyway, I think this does really strike to the heart of this collection.
Nice.
It's a lot of going through things and then atoning for it.
Yeah.
In any way you can, in ways that maybe our heroes weren't able to, or don't realize that anymore. Right. So
I like that. I really, really like that, Blake. And I definitely got that, as that is your kind of like stated intention, I definitely got that as you were reading it. You know, we're in a lot of metaphors, we're in a lot of different kinds of experiences and scenes, but we kind of feel that sort of weight of burden and the intensity of living. And I wrote down that one line, like, aren't you tired of feeling, you know? And I feel like our connections to these, you know, to these great poets and in their lives and these different historical events and our own present existence, no matter what culture we are in or we are from. You know, it's so fascinating, also mundane, and so overwhelming at times, and your poems capture that in really different in really interesting ways. I very much enjoyed them, and I
Well,
write
thank you.
fiction poems
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I didn't want that line to be seen as like reactionary or anything like that, but
Yeah,
I do
no,
feel like we are in that mindset where,
yeah,
it is too tiring to think about where
yes.
things are, where the state of the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know, we've been kind of very stuck inside in this very difficult situation for a long time. And I think everyone can resonate that, like, aren't you tired of feeling, just like reflecting inside your house, working from home, or, you know, or thinking about all of the, you know, tragedy that's going on. Totally. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Chris, I think it's time for
Okay.
our famous last double question.
Yep. So, all right. Well, Elizabeth, so two-part question. One, uh, words of wisdom to
Emerging.
a new, say, poet looking for some kind of wisdom from you, and then a book recommendation after that.
Any book or a poetry
Any
book?
book, any book.
Any book
Any
that
book
you
in the
want to
world.
recommend to us that you are loving right now, or
My
Jeff?
words of wisdom. Yeah, sure. My words of wisdom would be that your art will always matter,
Yes,
and that yes, and that bad poetry and bad art does not exist.
I
Now,
love that.
I'm not saying that it can't. I'm not. That doesn't include hate speech. Obviously, if there's hate
Right.
speech in art, we shouldn't acknowledge that. No hate speech. But that if someone says to you that poem was bad, that essay was bad, painting, play, they didn't necessarily feel as connected to it as
Right.
something else. But
Yeah.
if you wrote it, it's not anything anyone else could create. However long it took you. So don't let people put you down. That would be, and just keep going. And just it doesn't have to be performed at new. It doesn't have to be, put in a book. Write it however you want to do it.
Yes. I love that pearl of wisdom, Elizabeth. I think it is absolutely fantastic. And your recommendation?
Oh, yeah. I think an important book that everyone should read, and it's my favorite book, is Franny and Zooey.
Say again?
I don't know if you could hear me over whatever's
Oh,
going
sorry. I think
on.
Blake is grabbing his book. Say one
Sorry.
more
Yeah,
time,
I was.
Elizabeth.
Yeah.
No, I love it.
I was saying, I'm just going to recommend my favorite book, which is a novel by J.D. Salinger called Franny and Zooey.
Oh, Chris is getting it. He's getting it.
I
He
have
has all
it.
the books people recommend.
I have it too somewhere. But yep, Franny and Zooey. J.D. Salinger is my favorite author. That book is been very life changing, and my whole family is very Salinger obsessed. I mean, in one of my plays, two of my characters are Franny and Zooey. So,
Oh,
and one is, one's middle name is Seymour, and so the Glass family is very intertwined in that play. But I think there's a lot of important lessons you can learn, not just from Salinger's writing, but within that novel itself.
love it. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that fabulous pearl and recommendation. Blake, your pearl of wisdom for emerging writers, new poets, and your recommendation.
My pearl of wisdom is that we're on the same page.
Yes.
I still am an emerging writer, and we all are at some point in life. And I think just read what you like. I think poetry is making a resurgence these days. There's poetry being sold at Urban Outfitters. There's
Love
poetry
that.
being, we had a poet at Biden's inauguration.
Yes, we
There's a
did.
great Twitter account. Poetry is not a luxury that I follow, and a lot of my friends follow. Yeah, if you can get a feel for the language, then it doesn't have to, necessarily be like Yeats or William Blake or anything like that. It
No,
just
no,
has
it
to be
certainly does not.
contemporary poetry is wonderful. So many diverse voices and everything like that. I think just, read something that really stirs your heart, because that's honestly what happened for me. And
I love that.
I never expected in my life to write a collection of poetry.
No,
And apparently I did. So
congratulations.
yeah. Book recommendation is this.
Ooh.
This is a first edition I spent way too much money on because this book was worth it for me.
Wow.
But it is by
Yes.
and this is a collection of all of her. There's like 4 books in here. Oh, this one's signed. I forgot.
Oh my God.
Probably why I paid out the ass for it. So, yeah, there's books. There's like 5 or 6 books in here dating back to 1973, going up to 1993. If you can find this collection, it's absolutely blew my mind. There's a poem here about Jack Ruby, who shot, Lee Harvey Oswald. There's poems about Oppenheimer, and there's poems about Elvis and the Vietnam War and everything like that. So you can have poetry be contemporary and relatable to all kinds of issues.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't just have to be about flowers on the coast of Dover or some British shit like that.
That is absolutely right,
Yeah.
Blake. I am banking on poetry not just being about flowers in like 1800s England. I hear you. I hear you.
That stuff's good too, but
it is good. It has its place,
yeah.
and it is something I appreciate. But I so hear what you're saying with that. I love that, and I love your favorite book. Thank you for showing that to us.
Yeah, those are recommendations tonight.
Absolutely great. You guys, thank you so much for being our guests tonight, everybody. Elizabeth Strauss and Blake C. Rong. Woo!
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. It was our pleasure to get to hear both of you. We hope that we can stay in touch and bring you back around for maybe an open mic night or a theme night. We'll stay connected. Thank you so much to
hopefully in the city too. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'll drive back. I'll drive back into the city for that.
Oh yeah. Well, we would love to do something in person. Oh God, that would be incredible. And we're working on that too. We're cooking on maybe some in-person, an event or two this summer, particularly. But thank you so much to our audience, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter out there. And don't forget that this is archived for any of your friends who didn't get to see it. You can send them one of the public links. It'll be great. And Chris, who do we have coming up next week again?
Next week we have Vale Larkin and Chris Tarocchio.
Woo!
And it's going to be awesome.
Going to be totally awesome. But for now, we hope that you have a great night, and thank you again. See you next Sunday.
Bye.